Dave and this is Logan, out on another walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Today we're at the beautiful little village of Martin in Hampshire. It's about 7 miles to the northwest of Fordingbridge and 12 miles to the south of Salisbury. It's a beautiful, glorious spring day, sun's out. We're going to be doing a route from the village up to Martin Down, where hopefully we're going to see some quite stunning views. We're quite lucky, this is very local to us. In fact, we can walk to the start from our home. He's ready, let's go. Well, I thought I'd start the walk at this lovely little church, which is on the northern side of the village, and I'll just pan round to show you. Isn't that pretty? And this is the Church of All Saints in Martin, and well, it's Norman, built sort of between 1080 and 1100, and well, you can see the original roof elevation above the arch to the tower. As I walk round here, the little porch here, that was added in the 14th century, and the door was added in the 19th century. And then you've got this magnificent tower that was built in 2 stages, the first stage in the 13th century and the second stage in the 15th century. And the south door here, that's the main entrance, the north door is blocked. And the steeple, well, that was added in 1787. And I believe it's got 6 bells, the oldest being dated 1606. But one thing I just wanted to show you, I'm not going to sure if it's going to show up because the sun's not quite in the right direction, but a couple of little holes on the wall here. Look, there's one there and there's one there. I'll try and put some photographs up, but these are scratch tiles or mass tiles, not so much to tell the time, but more to indicate hours of service. And they'd usually have a noon line, and the vicar would stick or put a stick in the hole, and when the sun shone, the shadow of the stick onto the line would show when the next service would start. And they normally come in pairs, one for summertime and one for winter time. But quite fascinating. I don't know what happens when the sun isn't out though. Maybe they didn't have a service that day. Let's go on to the village. Oh, look at this. This is on the village green here. We've got this lovely old village pump over a well. Very much an iron frame impelled by a cranked spindle. Apparently in 1921 this pump was the only source for farmers to get water for their stock, and it was also used by householders. And then, oh, isn't that beautiful? That's Rose Cottage, which was built in 1650. And then if I just pan round here, this here is the base of a 15th century village cross. And then over here, a slightly younger Millennium Cross erected in 2008, and it celebrates the connection with Glastonbury Abbey, who owned a fair bit of land here at one time, as well as the Wiltshire Longhorn sheep that brought the village prosperity. And right at the top, I don't know if you can make out, it says Glastonbury 37.5 miles, but isn't this pretty? And quite exquisite. Well, Martin village is just full of lovely old cottages, many of them thatched, and there's basically a single road that goes through the village following the Allen River, which is a small tributary of the River Avon. It's got its own little community shop, and I say lots of these wonderful cottages. There's one called yew tree cottage, which was built in 1682, I think. It used to be called Ye Old Cottage, and I was reading that at one time it had a tree growing inside it and out through an upstairs window. We're now heading out of the village and going up a road called Sillans Lane, which is going to take us up to Martin Down. The lane itself has got a little bit of history, I suppose. It was used as a filming location for a Doctor Who series, The Awakening, 1983. I think the Doctor was Peter Davidson at the time, but this is quite a peaceful little meander. I'll probably start puffing and panting shortly because it's going to be uphill for quite a while. Well, I've just stopped halfway up Sillans Lane, just taking this lovely view, rolling chalk downland, and already some of the crops there beginning to show a lot of greenery, birds twittering away in the background. But look how dry some of this earth is when you think what a wet winter we've had, and yet over the last few weeks a lot of drying winds. It's funny how things change very quickly. We've now made our way up to the top of Sillans Lane. We're just about to go on to Martin Down itself. And actually there's a little information board here which I'll put up on screen. It just explains how we're actually on a nature reserve. I think it was established back in the late 70s, about 1,000 acres in total, and it's a real haven for orchids. I think something like 8 species are grown here, but as you can see from this gorgeous view, very much open meadows and scrub and ancient hedges. You get a lot of knapweed here, which gives the ground a purple haze in the summer. There he is, quite gorgeous. Well, looks like I'm going to have to keep Logan under control just for a little bit, certainly until we get to the top. What a beautiful setting though. Now again, this area was used for a film location for the 2005 film Pride and Prejudice, and they came here in September 2004 to do the filming, and they put a whole load of chalk down on some of the tracks to make it look a bit whiter, and put loads of these artificial red poppies everywhere. And after all that, they never actually used the scene in the film. Okay, well, we're now going to follow this meandering track on chalkland all the way up to the top in the distance, Martin Down. Well, I simply had to stop to have a look at these. There's like a carpet of yellow, I think they're cowslips, aren't they? I'm not a great expert on wildflowers and what have you, but I think that's what they are. I ought to ask my expert. Yeah, cowslips. The other thing I've noticed just on here, there's a lot of these little hillocks or pimples, I suppose. They remind me of those similar ones that you get at Barmer Lawn at Brockenhurst. I wonder if they're the same thing. They reckon those are yellow meadow ants' nests. So I wonder if that's the same thing here, possibly. Has that same look about it. Isn't this stunning? Right, that was a good excuse to stop, Logan. Come on, let's keep going. Whew. Well, we've made our way to the top. I want some beautiful views from up here. Now, I know sometimes views don't always come across that great on film, and it is quite hazy, but it really is quite gorgeous. We'll move along in a bit, probably get some more, but what I want to show you up here, we're at a place called Bokerley Dyke or Bokerley Ditch. I think that's how you pronounce it, but if I just move along here we'll be able to see it in more detail. But it's a ditch or dike that's 3¼ miles long, and well, they reckon it originates from the either 700 to 300 BC, and look, we can probably see how deep it is there. It was probably a cultural boundary. It was thought too small for military use, and it was a great earthwork with ramparts. But the present earthworks are basically remodelled, and they date from the 4th century, built by Romanised Celts in an attempt to prevent the westward advance of invading Saxons. But it was cut through by a Roman road, which probably is about maybe ½ a mile from here. And the Roman road was built in the 1st century, but when the Romans left, the ditch was repaired, and now you've left with this a very deep ditch. If I turn around, well, be careful, I'm not going to get the sun in your eyes, but you can see how it goes all the way in the distance. See if we can go through more of these little yellow cowslips coming out. But the ditch itself is 20 foot deep, and then there's a 20-foot bank high up on the right hand side. So I'm just now heading eastwards following the line of this ditch. You can see how deep it is right up into the top of the downs there. Well, let's just stop and admire the view. You can see the steeple of Martin Church in the far distance. So we've got Hampshire basically in front of me, and then as I pan round, that's Wiltshire. We're right on the border here, and in fact just I don't know, about 100 yards behind me is Dorset. So we really are on the edge here. But oh, it's a lovely little cooling breeze as well. Right, I would like to stay here for a bit longer, but we've got a bit of walking to do. So we're going to head, as I say, we're going to carry on up a little bit more, climbing up there, and there's something I want to see when we get to the top. More puffy and panting. I need to get fitter, you know. Well, now I've come across a couple of Bronze Age Barrows that I want to show you. So we just pan round. There's a couple. So the one in front of me is a slightly bigger one, and it's about 17 meters in diameter, about 3 meters high. And as you can see, it's got a little indentation at the top, which is probably evidence of excavation. probably done by the Victorians. They were very good at that sort of thing. And then just to the right of it, or to the east of it, is a much smaller barrow, and this one's about 12 meters in diameter and about a meter high. And these are literally what, a couple of 20 or 30 feet away from the Bokerley Ditch, with those ponies in the background contentedly munching away. I think they're in an enclosed field rather than being free range by the looks of things. But again, oh, look at that view. It really is your quintessential rolling chalkland scene. We're now heading across the top of the down, and we've said goodbye to the Bokerley Ditch. We're just about to say hello to another one. I'll just turn the camera around so you can see what I'm looking at. Now this is called Grims Ditch. It's quite significantly different from the other one. Firstly, it extends about 14 miles east into Hampshire. But the main difference is that whereas Bokerley is a ditch with just one big bank, this is more of a slightly shallower ditch with banking on either side. And it's possibly older too, possibly 1000 BC. But it's only about 2 meters deep, probably about 6 meters wide, I would guess. And Grim is very much a Saxon name, often associated with Woden, who was king of the Anglo-Saxon gods. But no one can be 100% sure, but it's probably likely that this is more of an ancient track. It doesn't look as though it's designed for defence, because it'd be difficult to see how you'd be able to defend from it. But we've now come as far east as I'm going to go. I'm going to now head back down, back into Martin. But before I do, just want to show you this beautiful area. This is Tidpit Down. We're looking deep into Hampshire now. Again, it's quite beautiful. Now, about 15 years ago, I was lucky enough to have a horse. I used to ride him up here sometimes, a lovely old boy called Bo. And they do have some cross-country jumps here. And I did nip him over a couple, only the small ones, I hasten to add. In fact, they've still got some jumps here. I think they do have a little hunter trial cross-country competition once a year still. But absolutely beautiful rolling countryside again. Okay, so I said we're now going to do a downhill bit. Wow, what a lovely little spot to have a bench with some great views. Oh, look, it's a memorial by the looks of things. Loving memory of Dawn Beadle. And what a super spot to rest. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a like or a comment, and if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe. That way you'll be able to hopefully join us for another walk in the countryside sometime in the future. We thought we'd do our end bit here at the top at Bokerley Ditch with these beautiful views behind us. We've got quite hot today. So until we meet again, thanks for joining us, and cheerio. Oh, I think we need a drink, don't we? Come on.